more from Advice for Youth of All Ages by Mrs. Marta Maudlin. The sad tale of the girl who went out with wet hair and caught her death. To catch death is, of course, a gross misnomer. Such sensationalist medical language can usually be traced to a certain sort of grandmother who would have their descendants believe all manner of ill-informed and dangerous nonsense about their health. Such irresponsible matriarchs can be found at the root of today's youth's lack of faith in conventional wisdom, and as such are responsible for an absolute epidemic of preventable morbidity and death. One cannot catch death. He is far too subtle and wily. That is a little joke from Mrs. Maudlin. Although one cannot catch death, they can, however, catch any number of deadly diseases from which they can sicken and expire. Almost all diseases can be caught: fevers, coughs, colds and influenza, croup, measles, mumps and rubella, sugar diabetes and cancer. Some doctors actually claim that one cannot catch cancer, but they may try telling that to my Aunt Amelia. They cannot. She is dead. Auntie M caught cancer from a dirty toilet seat in a tea room in Scarborough and swiftly perished. Many diseases can be caught, but only one is specific to going out with wet hair. That is a fever. The symptoms of fever include having a fever. That is why it is called fever. The fever germ is a virus which, seen under an electron microscope, looks almost exactly like a hairy soap bubble filled with string. They orbit the Earth in a thin layer between 2 and 7 feet above the ground, thereby encasing the globe in a floating blanket of germ-filled air. People taller than 7 feet, or who spend all their time lying down on the floor, almost never catch fevers. These hair-like protrusions naturally catch and latch onto wet hair, where their very proximity causes an immune response. This response may be delayed by hours or even months, but it is almost certain that a person who goes out of the house with wet hair will develop a fever at some point in the subsequent 12 to 36 months or so. Having caught onto the strands of hair with its whipping flagellae, the fever germ is able to use these lengthy appendages to penetrate the scaly shaft of each strand of hair, causing fever of the hair. The virus is able to inject its own DNA into the hair shaft. The direction of the scales of the hair, so well displayed in advertisements for shampoo and other hair products, act to sweep the fever virus DNA package towards the scalp, ushering it towards the living cells where it can infect and replicate. First, the virus enters the cells of the follicle, then the surrounding skin, then the bone cells, then the brain. Fever is caused by superheating of the brain, the body's own response to many forms of infection. Realizing that there is an external agent infecting the delicate tissues of the body's natural thermostat, which is found in the ear, causes a rise in temperature in an attempt to cook and therefore nullify the virus. The fever virus, unfortunately, can stand much higher temperatures than the human body, and the proteins of the brain begin to harden like the white of a boiled egg, long before the virus even notices that it's getting balmy. This is why fever is the only illness for which an antipyretic medication like paracetamol is indicated, and why administering paracetamol for any other infective condition will cause immediate death. At the tender and willful age of 27, my own dear sister Fanny disregarded the advice of our hairdresser during a wave and set, with catastrophic consequences. I had taken her along to the salon myself, told the stylist exactly what she wanted, and sat in the next chair for a quick permanent. Fanny was seated comfortably all in rollers under the Salonette 700 dryer hood with a nice hot cup of tea, so there was really no cause for her to become disgruntled. For reasons that she carried to the grave, and possibly due to some underlying nervous disorder, she leapt up in tears, absolutely screaming that she wanted a Mary Quant. She ran outside, ripping out her rollers, Nestlé Neverflake Superset running in rivulets down her neck. When I was appropriately coiffed and bone dry, I went home and found her there, her lovely hair cut off like a boy's. She never fully recovered from her mad egress with wet hair, and she died, feverish and babbling, 63 years later in a comfortable nursing home in Eastbourne, surrounded by her family and friends. It makes me quite shudder to think how close I could have been to such a fate.